also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 8 English lesson on vague pronoun references. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 8. And we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of vague pronoun references. All right, so chapter is vague pronoun references. Our subject is English language arts, grade 8. And the lessons that we are focusing on is to identify vague pronoun references and to identify all of the possible antecedents. All right. So when writing, right, we need to make sure to avoid vague pronoun references. And a vague pronoun reference, it occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. And remember, a pronoun, it basically takes the place of a noun or it takes the place of nouns. For example, when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. So basically, the sentence is a vague pronoun reference, specifically because they're making mention of two people within, or let's say ladies within the sentence, but they're only saying she breathed a sigh of relief, which means that we don't know who actually breathed a sigh of relief because both of them landed. So which means that this pronoun, which is she can either refer to Lisa landing or it can refer to Kim landing. So which means that this sentence is basically unclear. So that is why we say it is also called a vague pronoun reference, and that is basically because of the sentences being unclear. So a vague pronoun reference, it can also be corrected in one or two ways, right? So we can correct a vague pronoun reference by replacing the pronoun with the correct antecedent. For example, if we replace the pronoun with the correct antecedent, then it will mean when Lisa and Kim. So it'll basically say when Lisa and Kim finally landed, Lisa breathed a sigh of relief, which now means that they're specifically putting emphasis on the one person who breathed a sigh of relief. In our previous one, it said she breathed a sigh of relief. So we weren't sure if it's either Lisa or if it was Kim. So it was basically unclear, right? So if we basically, let's say, correct our pronoun references, then it means that we are replacing the pronoun with the correct antecedent. A second way in which we can also correct this vague pronoun reference is to rewrite the sentence. And by rewriting the sentence, this is now where we basically correct um, our vague pronoun reference. Example, Lisa breathed a sigh of relief when she and Kim finally landed. So now we know who specifically was the one who breathed a sigh of relief. And once again, if we just go back, we see that a vague pronoun reference, it occurs when a pronoun could either refer to more than one possible antecedent, meaning it can refer to more than one person that is specifically doing the action, right? Also, a vague pronoun reference, right? It also occurs when they, it's referring to plural, more than one person, when they, them, their, theirs, it, or its is used without an antecedent. So vague pronoun reference, it also occurs when words like they, or let's say when pronouns like they, them, their, theirs, it or its is used without an antecedent. For example, they say that this nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. So they say that this nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. So which means that this specific sentence, right, is unclear because firstly, we don't even know who they refer to, right? Which means that we don't know who the antecedent is because it's without an antecedent. So that pronoun, which is they, is used without an antecedent, which means that the meaning or the sentence is unclear, or the meaning of the sentence is unclear. And if we were to fix this vague pronoun reference, right, then the problem can be fixed by replacing the pronoun by the missing antecedent, right? So we said they say that the nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes, which means that they is used without an antecedent. So in order for us to fix it, right, then it means that we can fix it by replacing the pronoun with the missing antecedent. So, for example, we can maybe say things like the advertisements say that the nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. We can even say the shop owner said that the nail polish dries in 5 minutes. The shop manager, the shop assistant, right? So it's basically we need to at least say who or what the antecedent is within a sentence. All right. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. So now we're going to aplusstudents.ca. And we said our chapter is vague pronoun references. And our lessons are to identify vague pronoun references as well as to identify all of the possible antecedents. So once again, when writing, right, we need to make sure to avoid vague pronoun references. And a vague pronoun reference, it occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent, right? And we once again made an example of Lisa and Kim that finally landed. And we see that Lisa and Kim breathe a sigh. She breathed a sigh of relief, right? And in that case, we see that the vague pronoun reference is unclear because we don't know who they are specifically talking about. And then we can replace our vague pronoun reference, or we can replace the pronoun with a correct antecedent, right? In one or two ways. For example, when Lisa and Kim finally landed, Lisa breathed a sigh of relief. Or we can rewrite our sentence by saying Lisa breathed a sigh of relief when she and Kim finally landed. So now, basically, we have identified specifically what our antecedent is or who it is. All right. So now we need to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. So we need to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. So if we look at the sentence that basically contains a vague pronoun reference, then we will say it's when Lisa and her sister flew to Hawaii last month, the airline lost her baggage, which means that her can either refer to Lisa's or it can refer to her sister. And if we were to replace or correct that vague pronoun reference, we can then say that the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii with a sister last month. So now we know who the antecedent or what the antecedent is within that sentence. But if we just say when Lisa and her sister flew to Hawaii last month, the airline lost her baggage, then that is the vague pronoun reference, right? Because her can either refer to Lisa or it can refer to a sister, which means that the antecedent is unclear. All right, let's look at another activity. Which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? It says Josh showed them the error on his receipt and he received a refund. So Josh showed them the error on his receipt and received a refund. So if we were to select the vague pronoun reference, right, then we can say that Josh showed the customer service representative the error on on his receipt and received a refund. Right? Which means that we just basically have to replace the antecedent correctly. And then, for example, rewrite the sentence correctly by fixing the vague pronoun reference. All right, and if we look at the next one, we need to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. It says, Mike, did you ask them if the flu vaccination is available yet? And if we look at the sentence, it says, did you ask them, right? This is basically unclear because we don't know who the them is, right? Because neither says, Mike, did you ask them if the flu vaccination is available yet? So you actually asking yourself, do I have to ask the nurses? Did you ask the doctors or who, right? So the antecedent is missing within the sentence, right? And if we were to correct the vague pronoun reference, we would say, Mike, did you ask the so this is still the vague pronoun reference where we say, Mike, did you ask them if the flu vaccination is available yet? And like I say, if you want to correct it, we can, instead of saying them, we can maybe say, Mike, did you ask the nurses or the doctors if the flu vaccination is available yet? So now we know who you are referring to, or now we know what or who the antecedent is within that sentence. Right? So basically, they're saying the first answer choice contains a vague pronoun reference, which means that the pronoun them is used without its antecedent. And in the second choice, right, the answer shows a possible correction for vague pronoun reference. Them has been replaced with nurses, like I did earlier. So instead of saying, Mike, did you ask them if the flu vaccination is available yet? We replace it by saying, Mike, did you ask the nurses if the flu vaccination is available yet? All right. So now let's go to our test. So we need to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. They say that diesel cars have better fuel economy than cars powered by gasoline. Or we can say experts say that diesel cars have better fuel economy than cars powered by gasoline. So we need to select the vague pronoun reference within the sentence. So what do you think is the vague pronoun reference within the sentence? Is it the first option where we say they say that diesel cars have better fuel economy than cars powered by gasoline? Or experts say that diesel cars have better fuel economy than cars powered by gasoline. So we need to select the following that contains a vague pronoun reference. All right. So if we were to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference, then we would say they say that diesel cars have better fuel economy than cars powered by gasoline. Because over here we have the antecedent that is missing, right? So once again, they are using they instead of the correct antecedent because now we don't know who they are talking about, right? So once we correct our vague pronoun reference, we can then say experts say, right? But in that case, they only say they said. All right, so now we need to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. When Jake tackled Tim during the football game, his arm was injured. Or do we say when Jake tackled Tim during the football game, Tim's arm was injured? So we need to select the vague pronoun reference. So the first one or the second one. So when Jake tackled Tim during the football game, his arm was injured. Or when Jake tackled Tim during the football game, Tim's arm was injured. Remember, with the vague pronoun reference, it is basically missing the antecedent, so we don't even really know who or what we are specifically, who basically is doing the actual action, right? All right, then if we were to choose the correct one, we would say when Jake tackled Tim during the football game, his arm was injured, which means that the pronoun his, right, can either refer to Jake or it can refer to Tim, but it's not necessarily specifically saying it's one of them. So that is correct. So well done. That is correct. All right. So now it says which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? The protesters want them to raise salaries and increase employment benefits, or the protesters want the company's executives to raise salaries and increase employment benefits. So we need to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. The protesters want them to raise salaries and increase employment benefits. Or we can say the protesters want the company's executives to raise salaries and increase employment benefits. Either the first option or the second option. All right. So if we were to select the correct one, we would say the protesters want them to raise salaries and increase employment benefits. Remember, them can refer to anyone within the company, right? Is it HR? Is it the finance department? Is it the bosses? Is it the managers, right? But we need to specifically be, it's like you need to be specific, right? But here we are not being specific, so it's missing an antecedent. Which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? After Mr. Ellison finished performing with Mr. Watson, Maria went up and thanked them. So after Mr. Ellison finished performing Mr. Watson, Maria went up and thanked him. Or after Mr. Ellison finished performing with Mr. Watson, Maria went up and thanked Mr. Ellison. We need to choose the correct vague pronoun reference. The vague pronoun reference. All right, so if we were to select the vague pronoun reference, then we would select the first one. Yes, because it says Maria went up to thank him. Him can refer to Mr. Ellison or him can refer to Mr. Watson. And the first one is correct, so well done. All right, so it says the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii with her sister last month. So the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii last month. We need to choose the correct one. Is it the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii with her sister last month, or the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii last month? We need to choose the correct vague pronoun reference. All right. So if we were now to select the vague pronoun reference, remember, it says, the first one says the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii with her sister, right? And then the airline lost Lisa's baggage when she flew to Hawaii last month. All right. Okay, let's quickly see the second one because both actually sounds the same. All right, so it's actually the first one still, right? So it's basically still the first one, especially since the sister's name is being mentioned. All right. So now we're going to identify all the possible antecedents, right? And we say that when writing, we need to make sure or we need to avoid vague pronoun references. And a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent, right? So, for example, when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. All right. So they says that it says that a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. And it's like we made an example where it can refer to, for example, Lisa and it can refer to her sister, right? But that is why we can either correct it, we can rewrite it, right? Or we can just replace the pronoun with the correct antecedent. But basically, a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. All right. So it says when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. So the question is, who breathed a sigh of relief, right? So if we rewrite that sentence, we can then say that the pronoun, so we can then say that when Lisa landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. All right, let's first do this activities and then we'll go to our test. It says Rebecca made mint chocolate ice cream with her sister, even though she generally prefers fruit flavored sorbet. All right, so Rebecca made mint chocolate chip ice cream with her sister, even though she generally prefers fruit flavored sorbet. All right. So if we were to select our correct answer, we would say that Rebecca made chocolate chip ice cream with her sister, even though she generally prefers a fruity flavor, which means that this text contains a vague pronoun reference. The pronoun she could refer to Rebecca, or it could reflect, or it can refer to Rebecca or her sister. All right, so that is basically still a vague pronoun reference, right? Because it can refer to either her sister or it can refer to her. All right, so now we're going to our test. It says we need to select the correct antecedent of the vague pronoun within the sentence. So we need to select the correct one. It says select the correct antecedent of the vague pronoun within the sentence. Steve signed up for the turkey trot with his brother, and he was surprised when he came in first. So we need to either select the pronoun, which is he, or we need to select Steve. right? It says that Steve signed up for the turkey trot with his brother and was surprised when he came in first. All right, so if we were to select the correct one, let us choose Steve. Let's replace the he with Steve because it says Steve signed up for the turkey trot with his brother and was surprised when he came in first. So basically, we don't need to find or ask ourselves who came in first. Was it Steve or was it his brother? So if we replace the he with the word Steve, then it will mean that Steve came first. So we said with his brother and was surprised when Steve came in first. Let's try Steve. And Steve is correct. So well done. So we need to select the correct antecedent of the vague pronoun in the sentence. It says Rebecca made mint chocolate chip ice cream with her sister, even though she generally prefers fruit flavored sorbet. So do we say she or do we say Rebecca? So we can replace the she with the word Rebecca. So even though Rebecca generally prefers the fruit flavored sorbet. So we can say Rebecca made mint chocolate chip cream with her sister, even though Rebecca generally prefers fruit flavored sorbet. Let's try Rebecca would refer. Otherwise, if we had to say she, it would refer to her sister as well as Rebecca. All right. In the late 1800s, Nellie Bly was known for her newspaper reports about the poor working conditions women faced. So in the late 1800s, Nellie Bly was known for her newspaper reports about poor working conditions women faced. So we now need to select the antecedent of the vague pronoun in the sentence. Is it her or is it Nellie Bly? All right. All right. So if we choose the correct one, we will say that Nellie Bly was known for her newspaper reports about the poor working conditions that women faced. Let's just go with her. Oh, it's Nellie Bly. So you were actually correct. Is a Gigi. So you were correct because remember we are referring to Nellie Bly, right? So we're replacing the the pronoun with Nellie, or let's say the name Nellie Bly. Have you ever played with a Rubik's Cube? It is a 3D puzzle invented by Ern Rubik in 1974. So, have you ever played with a Rubik's Cube? It is a 3D puzzle invented by Ern Rubik in 1974. So we need to select the correct antecedent of the vague pronoun in this sentence. All right. Okay. So basically, right, it is, let's say we are doing something, right? We are going to the shop. So now they're saying that Nadine and Gigi is going to the shop, right? Um, if both of us are a he or she, let's say both of us are she. Now they say Nadine and Gigi goes to the shop. A she buys sweets, right? So which means that she refers to, I can refer to either Nadine or it can refer to Gigi, right? Because they are not specifying who the person is that is actually doing the action or buying, which means that the antecedent is actually the person that is doing the action, right? So if we don't correct the antecedent, right, then it's going to be confused and unclear because we won't know who actually buy or bought, for example, the sweets, right? So it's like saying Gigi and Jack went to play soccer. He scored a goal, right? So which means that the he can refer to either Gigi scoring a goal or it can refer to Jack scoring a goal, which means that our antecedent or our sentence is vague, right? That is a vague pronoun reference if we refer to he, right? Because the he refers to either Gigi or it refers to Jack, but it's not specifying who specifically scored the goal. So which means that in order for us to correct our vague pronoun reference, we need to replace that he with, for example, the correct name of the person who scored the goal or the correct name of the person who went to go and buy the chips or the sweets or who did the action. So basically, a vague pronoun reference, it's when it refers to something or someone, but it's referring to more than one person without it specifying who specifically it is making mention of, right? So it says a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. It can refer to more than one possible person, right? And that is why I'll make an example again of this also, where it says, when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. So this word she, the pronoun she, can either refer to Lisa that breathed a sigh of relief, or the she can refer to Kim who breathed a sigh of relief. But if we, let's say, correct that, then we can either say that when Lisa and Kim finally landed, Lisa breathed a sigh of relief. So now we basically replaced our let's say then we replace the pronoun with the correct name of the person who is actually doing the action, right? So we call that the antecedent. But the vague pronoun reference is when you could refer to more than one possible antecedent or more than one possible person or thing that is doing the action, but they are not specifying who specifically is doing the action or who specifically is getting whatever that we just made mention of. So we need to then replace that pronoun with the person's name in order to show that, okay, now Gigi is, for example, getting, or let's say scoring the goal, right? All right. So that is basically the end of our lesson now on vague pronoun references, right? We said a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent or persons that we made mention of, right? And we can even replace our or fix our vague pronoun references by replacing the pronoun with the correct antecedent and by rewriting that sentence in order to make it correct. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson, grade 8. Thank you very much for joining our class. I really hope that you had an idea of what vague pronoun references mean. If not, then by all means, I think we will just go over this lesson again. But you should have a good evening further. Goodbye.